In this exceptionally mild spring of 2011, the Dad's Army Appreciation Society is holding one of its local events, right here at the delightful and picturesque town of Topsham in Devon. It's the first time the Society has come to the southwest, and with so much to see and do, I bet it's not the last. It was about 5 years ago that Bill Pertwee, the Society's president, visited Topsham. Struck by the town's rich history, natural charm and the warmth of its people, he decided to take up residence, which he did, in 2008. The town offers a variety of what he calls proper shops. You can get everything you need here, and all set out as it's been for decades. The busy and colourful Saturday market is as popular as ever, with its friendly banter and an enormous variety of fresh food and other items. There's surely something for everybody on these stalls. When you've finished here, you might like to pay a visit to one of Topsham's famous pubs or cafes. Take a stroll along the waterfront, or simply relax in the peace and quiet of one of the town's secluded areas. Suits me just fine, says Bill. Another of the town's little treasures is the recently opened microbrewery, Topsham Ales. It's located right behind the Globe Hotel, which is today's venue for the Dad's Army Appreciation Society's Audience with Bill Pertwee. After a welcoming chat and a general natter, proceedings got underway with a quiz. No prizes for guessing the subject. It's Dad's Army and some of the other productions in which Bill appeared.
For a bonus, what was that episode? Right, number 6. This is number 6.
Tony Pritchard and Paul Carpenter, who set the questions, didn't get much past this audience, who were clearly boned up on the subject. Having just been shown some rare footage from the Dad's Army series, it's time for a short break and the chance to mingle, exchange stories, or pick up one of Bill's books and get it signed by the man himself. An ideal opportunity for the fans to chat with that lovable villain.
The constant guard that he was. And he was a recruiting. It's amazing. I don't know what's happened to him. No, he's all right.
The morning just seemed to whiz by. It's now time to tuck into that buffet lunch. And I can tell you there wasn't much left of it after this lot had finished.
Bill Pertwee to come and get some lunch, but he's got extra quick bag. we do have quite a good deputy in Bill Pertwee's son, John Pertwee. So I'm going to ask John to start by getting some lunch for his father ready, and then over to you, okay?
Just getting one of everything, then he'll be...
Yeah, then he'll be happy.
And so to the part of the programme that everyone's been waiting for. We join the audience as Bill has just been asked, how exactly did you come to be in Dad's Army?
I had no idea. I'd just been, I don't know what I was doing when David Croft rang up and said, I understand that you've done some radio and some theatre work. He said, I have to say I'm really not looking for an actor as such. I just want somebody who can push people about and shout a lot. And he said, my agent has said, well, I fit the bill. His agent. So I said, well, fine, and I hadn't worked for some time. So I went in and did that first episode for £15. which was, you know, big money then, as far as I was concerned anyway. And that's how I really sort of started with it, which is amazing. And later on, I said to David, why did you sort of ask about me particularly? So he said, well, I'd heard that you do push people about and shout a lot, and that's all I really want. I said, oh, I see. I said, well, I'm very lucky to be with you. So he said, well, thank you very much. And actually, I had been doing 2 summer shows at Bolton Regis. And the second one, where I was sort of basically in charge and doing little bits and pieces, you know, some people came up from Plymouth and said they'd like to take the whole show down there for the following summer. And this was 1967. So I said, oh, they said, no, we'll put you up for the night, come down and we can chat to you, and all this sort of thing went on. So down we go, and my late wife came with me, and we you know, we had a nice evening down there, and met the entertainment manager and so forth, and he said, we'd love to have you down here. Just, you know, the show, just as we came up to see it at Bognor, you know, and we loved the whole thing exactly as you were doing there. And I thought, oh, well, I don't know, okay, well, could we think about it? The next day we came back and it was a bit wet, raining a bit, driving back from Plymouth into Surrey, where we were living, and I said, well, that's the mortgage paid for a wee bit, isn't it? I said, I'm not going to do it, I don't want to do it. She said, why? You've got nothing else. I said, no, I've just got an idea, that's all. And just so we get back there and we sat outside for a bit, and I said, it was a lovely day today, isn't it? She just, what about the mortgage then? Nobody's telephone, and suddenly, this was 1968, and I got this call from David Croft, and that's how it all started. So if I'd done the season at Plymouth, I would never have become the fellow who could shout a lot and push people about. So, from that time on, I've been thought of as not a proper actor. Bernard Cribbins said when I was working with him and with a few other people, we were doing a play together quite early on. Ray Cooney said, could you wake him up a bit, I've got a few notes. We were all on the stage, we were going to open 2 or 3 nights later. And so Bernard said, well, you won't get any sense out of him. You can tell he's not a proper actor, because he hasn't got any nerves. He's too, no, you know, it's just, I mean, an actor should have nerves, and he hasn't. So he said, well, right. And that's how that started, a long career with Ray Cooney plays, apart from Dad's Army still carrying on. So I think that I'd had a summer season which was near disaster for me. First time I went there because I'd been farming or doing something, I don't know what I'd been doing, some other sort of work or in an office in London. Or, suddenly I decided that I'd have to go in the entertainment business. And I just met my cousin John Pertwee for the first time in London, and I told him eventually I rather liked the idea of doing something. So he said, well, you can't just come into the entertainment business. You have no idea about it. I said, no, but we'll have to go there. And I did, and that's how it started, really. And from there on, I'd given up all the other things that I'd done, farming and being an engineer, making parts of Spitfire fighters, and I'd been a little bit in the stock exchange, so it all suddenly stopped, you know. It's a pity really, because I enjoyed most of it. However, I enjoyed the business even more, which is, I just thank goodness that I did, because I met some great people, wonderful folks there. I mean, real big stars, you know, which is marvellous. Who were very nice people as well. And then, as I say, Dad's Army came about, and wow, off we went to the first bits of filming done in around Thetford in Norfolk, and we stayed at the Bell Hotel there, and it was a new sort of life really for me particularly, and but it was great. We were like a family eventually, and they were all rather eccentric, you know, they really were. I mean, you couldn't, you know, breakfast in the morning when we'd been told we'd got to get on the coach and go out to the Stafford Battle area where was most of the film, and we were told to be ready about 7:30, 8 o'clock at the latest, because David Croft, the director, would be waiting out there with his cameramen and soundmen and so forth since the early hours of the morning almost, and so that was it. We knew roughly what time, you know, and the waiter would come round and say, what's on the menu this morning? I should rather you got any nice ham off the bone, and the waiter would say, well, no sir, but what else would you, he said, got any kippers? If you have, I'll have a kipper. I want the head and the tail left on. Yes, right, sir. Then we get another warning that, you know, we've got to get cracking. And by the time we got out there and had a bit of makeup on and whatever else, it would have been, you know, getting on a bit. So the assistant producer, Charles Snow, sort of came around and said, right boys, you've got to sort of, I don't know, about 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, please, to be ready. And afterwards said, go away. They got on their breakfast, never mind about getting on the coach and all that sort of thing. They used to go on, and eventually we started, you know, and all this is the time. And suddenly John Murray would come up and say, hold on. I've only had one cup of tea and that was cold. We'd get out to the coach, you know, and suddenly you'd hear this voice from Clive Dunn saying, I can't find my boots. Do you know anybody got my boots? No. Where did you have them? The lady, lovely lady, who was our makeup artist and did all the costumes and everything else. And she said, well, I'll go up and see if you've left them in the bedroom. So she rushed off and came back again with Clive's boots. And said, well, there we are. You left them outside the door. Oh, I am silly. Right, I think I'm ready to go now. You can go now, driver. We had to rehearse to get out of the car park of the Bell, the coach. We had to rehearse. And afterwards, said, not this way, the other way. Forward, backwards, forwards. And when we got out there, well, it was just like, you know, fairyland really, where everybody doing silly things, and Arthur hadn't, you'd say to Arthur, you're first on the Ocky this morning, Arthur, you've got this first couple of pages, you know, and really, I thought I was in there somewhere. While they were getting the sound and the lighting set up and everything else all ready for that particular spot where we was going to do his lines, you had to go to the back of the caravan where we would be having breakfast at 10:30 if we wanted to. We didn't because we'd already eaten. Pardon me. And so you go behind the caravan with these 2 pages of dialogue and look at things and learn them behind that caravan. I mean, it's amazing, really. You know, John the Measure and people like other people absolutely worked perfect before we ever left London, and so he was there for a wee bit, and David said, you ready yet, Arthur? Yes, I had a little trouble with my boots this morning. I didn't know what it is. I'd be about 10 minutes inside, so I'm long. It's rather getting the laces all rather in the mess. Just going on, you know, he'd come up and do his 2 pages, and they'd stop probably after the first page to adjust the lighting and the sound. So he'd have another quick look at this thing on the caravan and rush out again. And that was Arthur, you know. I remember when we would go back, we would film at each session enough for a series. you know, however many in the series we were doing, it was 13 after this, I think the second series, was it? Well, the first series we did 13 instead of 6. However, he would come in the morning, and David would say, "Oh, a little bit late, Arthur." "Yes, it was difficult, you know. A lot of traffic on the road. I've given the car up. It's no good at all." He only lived in Maida Vale, you know, very near. So he said, "Well, how do you get here?" "Well, I go by bus and the train and underground, you know, it's very, very pleasant. It was a very good journey, you know, don't get hauled up, you know, by the traffic." No, of course I understand that. But, you know, you were a little bit sticky on your lines yesterday, so I think it's getting a little bit difficult. So he said, well, yes, we've got plenty of time." He said, "No, we haven't. We've got 5 days before the show is, we're putting in the film bits into one episode is shown to the public in the studio." And so David said, you know, "I think if you could just hurry things up a wee bit, I think it's very good to all of us treated like a lot of schoolboys, really." And so he said, "I tell you what," he said, I'll give you a script you can leave on the train, another one you can leave on the bus, another one you can take home. You know, you see, take home. I wouldn't have that rubbish in my house." That's an answer for everything. You know. I will just finish on one particular. Well, this particular evening, we were in the Royal Variety performance with Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh there in 1975, and we were doing the Dad's Army stage show at the Shaftesbury Theatre. So we didn't have far to go. We had to come in and rehearse our bit that was going to be taken out of whichever episode or the show at the Shaftesbury. We would go in and, well, get ourselves sorted out where we were going to be, and there was sort of, well, we couldn't, there was 300 odd people in that variety performance, so we had to be billeted outside around that night, around the arena, as it were. So we were in with the, I think it was the KwaZulu African dancers, yes it was. Then there was the Ross Male Voice Choir in another place, from Wales. There was, Count Basie and his orchestra. They were in, up in the top floor of a big shop in Regent Street, on the corner of Regent Street and Marble Street. And so that's how we were distributed around the place. And we had our own stage managers who were exactly sort of being told through their earphones when things are wanted and so forth. Anyway, we did our piece. It seemed to go all right. It wasn't very long anyway. That was okay. Came back, and then we waited, of course. And other people went in and did their bits. There were a lot of solo artists as well. Oh, well, yes, I mean, Harry Seacombe, Vera Lynn, gee whiz. Yes, I said Count Basie's orchestra. Oh, yes, I know, Bruce Forsyth, and a couple of others.
Telly Savalas.
Telly Savalas, that's it. That's it, Telly Savalas from his, yes, Chicago nightclub act. So that was how the thing went. Now, at the end, then our stage managers, like all these people, we were converging on the stage door, ready for the, thank you, and the curtain call, as it were. And in we go. Eventually we get in there, and standing on the side, we're quite, I mean, very near the front curtains here, ready to go on and take our bow, as it were. And everybody then, when the last thing had happened, the curtains would come across and we'd all rush onto the stage, so we were all there for this take your bow, as it were. Anyway, I'm standing there, Arthur's next to me here, and one of the KwaZulu African dancers was standing beside Arthur feeding her baby at her breast. No, what you want to call it, the kid had been starving. She'd been cursing. So I was standing there, and I sort of suddenly saw Arthur turn around, and his hand started to go, and I knew this was a habit of his. He was going to say something. I should go mad. Suddenly he turned around and said, "He likes to drink, does he?" Absolutely bummed. Silence for a moment. And suddenly the hands are going again. She said something else. He turned around and he said, "I can do with one right now." He and I got on very well. It's good husband. It was a great time and a wonderful sort of atmosphere to be in, and a marvellous show. I mean, you know, nobody thought it was going to be that successful. I don't think at all at that point. The BBC certainly didn't, but they had to change their minds a bit later on. Anyway, thank you all for coming. That's the great thing. I'm absolutely delighted to see you, and you know, thank goodness we can have this. You know, it's not been done in this area at all. And I think it's so nice that people who are around here from various parts of the West Country have been able to come here today. And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Just ask Bill a couple of specific questions. Just a couple, yeah, only so.
Yes.
Yeah. Depends how long it takes to answer them, really. One of the questions is, in the episode My Brother and I, where you played opposite Arthur Lowe,
Yes.
you had to read Arthur's lines, didn't you? You had to read Arthur's lines. Hodges also read Arthur's lines.
I was beside the camera. The camera was here. There was Arthur on the bed there. He was drunk, as you know. And so I had to be very near the camera to give Arthur his eye line, and also to give the brother, when he was playing the brother, an eye line towards the camera. That was why I stood there for pretty well the whole of that episode that took place in the bedroom.
You're always described by all the other cast in their memoirs and their biographies as someone who lifted the cast and cheered them up. Who of the cast do you think needed cheering up most?
I think they made me laugh, and so therefore, feeling sort of getting amused as I did, I think well, Jimmy said he was always a happy fellow. So that was they were doing the funny things and I was having a laugh, so he thought I was sort of a happy fellow for them. I mean, the Verger, for instance, had this great big thing of not just going sort of, if he wanted to go and have a pee, he wouldn't just go behind one sort of nearby tree. He'd go into the forest. And they get lost coming out. Where are you, Virgin? Where are you, Virgin? And all this. And then when he got back, the vicar would slap his hand and say, "You are very naughty, you know, you should let us know where you are." "Oh, I can't do that, I can't do that."
Do you think your character of Hodges prevented you from getting other parts after the series ended?
Well, I went straight back into variety and writing books. I mean, I had a time about 1980, I think it was, where I was asked to do a play, and my agent said, "I'm sorry, you've got to take a cut of what you have been doing," because directly Dad's having finished, I did a couple of plays, one with Arthur Lowe actually, and we had top billing. And then as time wore on into the 1980s and 81, suddenly my agent said, "Well, the money's not very good, but you know, you'll still be billed." And I said, "Well, if the money's not very good, then how am I going to be billed?" He said, "Well, it should probably sort of rather down the page a bit." I said, I see. I said, well, I don't want to do it. I'll get on with some writing. And I did. I'd done one little book before Dad's Army almost, the Promenades Imperios, which I didn't want to do because it wasn't a writer, but it happened to be a publisher wanted to do it, and that was it. I did it. Got a few advance royalties, which was never heard of from my point of view before. However, and so I started on by Royal Command in 1980, I think it was, and that triggered off the thought of doing some other things. But by I think about 3 years after this was when I met Ray Cooney for the first time, very first time, to be in his productions. I'd done one before that, but I mean, here I did several with him, and it was great. I got back into radio, a radio series in Manchester, and suddenly it was all going again. And I've just been very, very lucky, a lucky man who's based his career on pushing people about and chatting a lot.
And of course, after that little back into radio, a lot of stage work in between, you were then called back by Jimmy and David to do your own one.
That's right. Yes. Well, that I really enjoyed it. It was something about you, Ranwell, that I said to Jimmy and David, I think this is really great. This was after the first couple of episodes. I was playing with P.C. Wilson, who used to drop in off his beat for a cup of tea in the kitchen downstairs. And they said, well, yeah, I think it's the crown of our television writing. So, and I think they were right. And it wasn't just the writing, it was the performances. They got some very good actors, and also the scene, the costumes, everything was right about it. And I'm pretty surprised that they haven't done. We eventually did 6, and that was apparently it as far as BBC was concerned. But they'd taken a couple of episodes in Australia, and so they decided to buy it, Australia, because they wanted to do some more. So they did a series of 13 and paid the BBC on the spot for them. So that was it. And we were given the same sort of money as it were when we worked for the BBC. So we were quite happy, but they turned out some of those. I think the fact that they haven't repeated them so much is because of the time. I think 50 minutes, something like that. And so that's probably how things are. They're rather used to doing half-hour repeats, and that's it. But I think there's room now even to do them, because some of the evenings are left rather bare for a lot of crap. But very little for, what shall we say, us older ladies and gentlemen to watch and say, oh, that's nice, isn't it? Yes. So there we are. But perhaps they will one of these days.
So who's the most famous person you've worked with, do you think?
I was doing warm-ups at Elstree for these big variety shows that they were recording there. Grade Brothers were recording them over there, or do Grade anyway, at Elstree, where they used to have international artists coming over. Oh, Jack Benny, Bob Hope, Mac and Cole, goodness me, and was a lovely fellow.
Bill Harris?
That's right, it was, yes. And he used to work with Benny. He would always do one or a couple of numbers, and always go terribly well. And I remember I used to go to the Palladium quite a lot because of people in the complimentary tickets, and they were on there, and lovely, because Jack Benny had this marvellous time. It was just fantastic. And two of us would go on and do very well indeed. Wow. They really give them great applause. And there would be this pause from Benny, who was standing there, looking just off stage there where he'd gone, and turn around and say, "I don't see it myself." Oh, the time was superb. And that's, yes, so I met several of these people. Also, one of the things was the chap who, the American general, more than that, Field Marshal, who led the attack on Italy from the Mediterranean. And he had a book signing to do it, and I knew him very well at the Imperial War Museum. He used to invite people along, and he had a book coming out, and it was going to be launched for this country at the Imperial War Museum. And so, as I say, I got an invite and went with other people, and it was great. They used to put on these nice little lunches as well. It was all good fun, a lovely place to do things. So I launched nearly all my books there in the Imperial War Museum, to start with. And this autobiography is a big thick one. And I was introduced to him personally, and he suddenly turned around and knocked on the sort of little easel that was there, but he had some notes and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so delighted to meet and to introduce you to the most famous air raid warden in the world, Mr. Bill Pertwee." Of course, somebody had teed him up there, you see, and he didn't know what I was mad at him. But there's those sort of lovely things. It's been a good,
Happy memories.
yeah, happy memories, and I've had so much support from close family and friends. One of them looks after me and puts me in my place when I say things that I shouldn't say. So, it's been a happy existence, really. And before I go, I'd just like to say, I want all those books sold. The ones that are going to the Four charity,
Hospice care.
Hospice care, yes. So I'll just wait a few hours and then you'll be good.
Well, thank you very much, Bill.
Not at all.
Thank you for sparing some time to chat to everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.